Thank you very much for joining us for this river appreciation presentation by Rideau Roundtable and Rideau Environmental Action League. So for those of you who don't know, the Rideau Roundtable is an incorporated non-for-profit association of individuals, community groups, business groups, and other partners and government organizations. Its focus of activity is the sustainable use of the Rideau and Cataraqui waterways and watersheds. The mission of the Rideau Roundtable is to promote and encourage the wise management of the Rideau waterway and corridor to ensure that its unique, natural, historical, and recreational values are sustained and enjoyed as a legacy for future generations. The focus of our programs and activities include heritage tourism, public awareness, cultural and natural landscape conservation, and outdoor education, recreation, and adventure. And then the Rideau Environmental Action League conducts community-wide environmental projects and promotes environmental improvements within the town of Smiths Falls and Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville counties. In 2010, Rideau became the registered Canadian charity. Rideau workers, with its volunteers, members, donors, friends, and supporters, and with schools, municipalities, agencies, businesses, and government ministries they work with, to achieve its mission to educate, inspire, and provide opportunities for people to protect, preserve, and restore our environment. So I am Jake Wilson. I graduated the Outdoor Adventure Naturalist program with Algonquin College two school years ago. I was a Voyageur canoe guide last year for the Rideau Roundtable, and now I'm the Voyageur canoe program coordinator. And I was also the riparian restoration specialist over the past, over the fall, winter, and spring. Over that winter. And during that time, I can help to coordinate some environmental projects. So throughout my life, I've had a lot of opportunity to connect with nature, growing up on a farm, paddling on rivers, and spending a lot of time in the forest. And recently, in more recent years, I've discovered a great passion to help people find a deeper connection with nature. So that's kind of where this idea of river appreciation is really stemming from. And I've had a great opportunity to volunteer and become involved in a meditation school based out of India called O&O Academy. And through them, I've had a great opportunity to be trained to lead meditations. So tonight, I'll be sharing with you a meditation or reflection, which I've found to be extremely impactful in helping me find deeper connection with nature. And tonight we'll gear that towards our rivers. So the flow of this presentation is going to look like this. So first we'll be reviewing the social, the health, the economic, and environmental benefits of rivers, basically the many gifts we receive from them. Then we'll have an opportunity to listen to some sharings from various people on how rivers have impacted their lives and well-being, and stories of connection that they've shared with rivers. And then we'll have our gratitude reflection or meditation on how rivers have impacted all of our own lives, and an opportunity for you to share your reflections if you wish, and how or share how rivers have impacted you and some of the memories that you've shared with our rivers. So then at the end, we'll finish by looking at how can we show our appreciation to nature, how can we reciprocate with all these great gifts we're receiving, and then we'll have some announcements at the end. All right, give me one moment. Let me set something up here. Excellent. All right, so can you all see the screen okay? Does it look good? Okay. Okay, so the gifts our waterways provide for us are innumerable. Our life and health is completely inseparable from the river and its health. And here are some of the gifts that they provide for us. So we'll start by looking at some of the health and other benefits and how they contribute to our well-being. While this may seem obvious, They provide us with clean water to drink. In fact, 60 to 70% of our body is composed of fresh water, coming mainly from the fresh water in our waterways, the waterways that we drink. It is well known that water is life, and we would not last 3 days without the water coming from our rivers. So imagine living in a water scarce part of the world without a river close by, how much more we would have to conserve our water, and in some cases travel to get to it. It is really easy to forget how much water is here, how it is an incredible abundance, and the amazing amount of rivers and lakes that we have here in Ontario to draw from. We also receive a significant amount of water in our bodies from eating vegetables and fruit, not to mention the water that we use for cooking, whether that's steaming, boiling, mixing, in a whole bunch of a variety of ways. So throughout this, I'm going to be using a couple things to help us really conceptualize the water. So I'll be using this 5-gallon water jug, as well as the typical bathtub, which consists of about 150 liters of water, just to compare certain things, how much water is actually used. So much of this water gets recycled by varying amounts for each type of use. So this, when I speak about the amount of water that is being used to produce certain things, I'm not necessarily talking about how unsustainable they are, but rather to just give you an idea of how much water has been involved in our day-to-day activities to cultivate a deeper sense of appreciation for that kind of thing. But with that said, it is pretty amazing and astounding the amount of water that some of these things can use, and it does raise some questions about sustainability, but that's not the focus. All right, so rivers provide us with clean water to clean the dishes, the clothes, our house, our bodies, and many other things. Again, we're very fortunate to have clean and sanitary water to be able to do this. Otherwise, we would not be able to live as clean and as disease-free as we do. They remove our pollutants via wastewater, gray water, and other various ways. To give you an idea, a toilet flush now, they are getting very, very good. Efficient toilets use 6 liters or less, sometimes down to 3 liters. But the older ones, the more inefficient ones, can actually use up to 23 liters, which is a full 5-gallon camping water jug. Yeah, the equivalent of that for every single flush. The toilet is actually one of the biggest water consumers in our household. And then there's the dishwasher load. That is 19 liters, about one of those jugs. Again, a laundry machine, up to 150 liters of water used for one load in a top loading washing machine. And that is about one typical bathtub of water. And a lot of water goes into a lot of our day-to-day goods, everyday goods that, we would definitely not enjoy the simple pleasures that we get from these manufactured goods without water, whether it is in the production or processing phase. So to give you an idea, according to the US Geological Survey, I pulled a variety of these statistics off. One simple cotton t-shirt, so like one of these medium cotton t-shirts that I have, uses about 2,500 liters of water to produce, almost 20 bathtubs going into one single cotton shirt. And if you think of how many cotton shirts you have in our wardrobe, you can see just how much water that we have in our wardrobe. Paper was pretty surprising for me. So just 2 sheets of paper. To produce 2 sheets of paper, it uses about 1 camping jug. So you can think of how much water was involved in making that stack of paper on your desk. And then there's steel, which is, again, present in so much of our household things. So this one 2.5 pound weight uses about 2.5 bathtubs full of water to produce just this one small piece of steel. And according to Automotive World, it takes about 39,000 liters to manufacture a typical car, which is about how much is one swimming pool. So it takes about, or the average swimming pool, it takes about one average swimming pool to produce a car. And then we can look at water that we use for our food when it comes to irrigation. So it's providing waters for our animals to drink and for those plants to soak up, as well as in the washing and processing of our food, not only in the growing. So again, a lot more water goes into our food than we might realize. This is again according to the US Geological Survey. So 1 simple pound of bread, about 731 liters goes into 1 pound of bread, or 5 bathtubs of water. 1 egg, which is probably the conventional raised egg, would be 190 liters. So about 1¼ bathtubs of water going into 1 egg. Now this one's probably a little bit different, pastured on the farm. I doubt it would equate to 190, but that's still quite amazing. And then, yeah, 1 cup of coffee using 1 whole bathtub, 130 liters. So I was pretty amazed by that too. And then 1 potato, 400 liters going into 1 potato, or about 2½ bathtubs. And then this one's a really big kicker. 1,750 liters for 1 pound of conventionally raised hamburger. That was a pretty big number to digest. And to take all of these figures and put it into a little bit of a bigger picture for you, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the average Canadian or American will use about 110,000 liters per year in their household use. So how much is 110,000 liters of water? Well, I did some calculations. This is our swimming pool on our property. It is about 24 feet wide, 4 to 4.5 feet deep, holding roughly 55,000 liters of water. So in just our household use, the average Canadian will use about 2 of these swimming pools per year. Again, this is really to give us a sense and a deeper appreciation of just how much water is involved in our day-to-day lives and how much we rely on our rivers for our livelihood. Some other things that rivers provide, they provide the habitat for aquatic animals like fish, ducks, beavers, river otters, and many others, many of which provide us food to eat through hunting and fishing, and sometimes through the grocery store. They also provide critical nourishment and habitat for our terrestrial animals as well. In fact, 70% of all terrestrial species of animals rely on the shorelines of the river at some point in their life cycle, and this is why the shoreline is referred to as the ribbon of life, because the same is true, well, even greater than that, 90% is true for aquatic species. Another thing, in Ontario, about 23% of our power comes from hydroelectric power, and that was in 2015. And this is according to the Ontario government website. Now, nuclear, which makes up 58%, also relies heavily on water to be able to keep the reactor safe. It would not be possible to do nuclear power like we do today without the reactors keeping that. Without the water keeping the reactors cooled. And of course, then we get to economic benefits. Many, many industries are created with our waterways. They support us financially. The fishing industry, that's obvious. But even if you think of the fish in the ocean, which is where a lot of the fishing would come from, of course, wild salmon rely on rivers for spawning. Same with the American eel, which travels from the ocean up the rivers every year if they're not obstructed by dams, which of course that's a big issue. And the entire ocean ecosystem is very, very deeply interconnected with the ecosystem of rivers. It appears as though one cannot exist without the other. So another example, of course, is shipping, which supports like almost every industry around the world, something we are just beginning to realize with the Suez Canal blockage, how much we rely on our rivers for our economic success and livelihood, specifically when it comes to our rivers. Another major economic benefit is tourism. So think of all the tourism that the Rideau River brings to the area and how much money Parks Canada gets from people going through those locks, going to the stores, or coming to their cottages in the area, or for people wanting to come live near the rivers, build homes. The list of how this supports our communities go on and on and on and on. Our community was really, or many communities have been built around the Rideau River and other rivers. And this is just to give a few examples. So this obviously leads to social and recreational benefits. The rivers are providing us with space to engage in so many activities, including boating, swimming, canoeing, kayaking, and the list goes on. Research is now clearly showing that spending time in nature, like on rivers, has a tremendous impact on our mental health and well-being. Psychologists are highly recommending that we get out in nature, including on rivers, as much as we possibly can. And of course, let us not forget the amazing feeling we get from just being by the water, whether we live on it or visit it often at the cottage or spend time on the waterways. Rivers and lakes provide a very profound calming effect and a de-stressing effect and beauty. And many of us rely on that space by the river to find deep relaxation and release from stress.
Jake, sorry to intrude here. You've got a network bandwidth low message coming up, and we're just seeing your video. We're not seeing the shared screen anymore.
Okay, but you can still hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you. If you turned off your video, your shared screen might come back.
I can see the video.
I can see the screen.
You can see him, or you can see the screen.
Yeah, I can see a picture of a cottage with a motorboat.
Okay, because mine came up and said that Jake's video was okay. Anyway, I'll stop then. If everybody else can see him, that's great.
Okay, good. Thank you for checking in. That's yeah.
Wait, just a quick suggestion. If people, oh, there we go. I've got a Post-it note on my camera. If people want to see more of the people and smaller picture, you know, there's a little line that you can slide across and make the picture smaller and visualize all of the people at the meeting. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Andrea.
Welcome.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So it just being by the river provides an amazing space to find relaxation, de-stressing, and increased mental and physical well-being. It is like a relax and recharge station. So can you imagine if we didn't have this available to us like we do? The Ottawa River, for one, is one of my favorite places to go spend the weekend. If I have a free weekend up near Mattawa, the feeling I get from being on the river is so nice, helping me to move to deeper peace, increasing my mental health and emotional well-being, and it renews me and allows me to return to life feeling way more refreshed and renewed. So that concludes some of the major benefits that we receive from our rivers, and we can now transition into more of the personal benefits that some of us have received. So we'll have an opportunity to hear some stories and sharings from people who have been deeply impacted by rivers, and some of these people include Max Finkelstein, Isaac Finkelstein, and Dot Bonifant, who's with us there. These people have spent a vastly greater amount of time on the water compared to me, but I will start by sharing a story of mine of when a river has deeply impacted me. One second. Okay, so when high school started, I entered into a very dark year of my life. I was feeling very depressed, riddled with anxiety, extremely insecure, insecure. After being stuck in this emotional state for a little over a year, I was starting to lose hope that I would find my way out of it. Life really started to feel dull, mundane, and kind of boring. But during this time, my parents took me on my first ever trip into the wilderness, into Algonquin Park, on a backcountry canoe trip. And I had never been that far into the wilderness before, and it really blew me away. It was incredibly beautiful. I remember very vividly the fact that I could not hear a single car sound in the distance. There were zero appliance noises running, no crowd speaking. There was absolutely nothing. I had never heard such silence. And when the wind blew and rustled the leaves in the trees, when the hilltops howled, it really played an incredibly beautiful song. On top of this, around every bend in the river opened up this really incredible view of a beautiful sunny sky with vast open water, and you could really see, feel, and smell the sweetness of the forest. And this whole experience really opened me up to a deeper curiosity, passion, and awe with nature. I had no idea any place like this even existed. I had never experienced anything like this. So one evening, when we finished setting up camp and eating dinner after a long day of travel, there was some time to just relax. So I walked down to beside the water and I sat down. And during this time, it was a very, very still night. The air was completely still. The water was without any waves. It was like a perfect mirror reflecting the golden glow of the sunset light behind the trees on the other side of the river. And the only sound I heard was every minute or so a fish jumping to catch its evening meal of insects. And as I sat out here by this river in the middle of nature in front of this beautiful river, there was no one I needed to impress. There was nowhere I needed to go. There was nothing I needed to do. I felt like I really relaxed into the pace of the area. The barriers keeping me from all these thoughts that I was having, keeping me from being present to the moment, just kind of dropped. And I felt the calm of the river really flow into me in that moment. The chaos inside my mind went silent. The fidgeting and adrenaline that I would regularly experience really dissipated, and I just felt completely still. And this was really the first ever time in my life where I could truly say, after childhood, that I experienced true inner peace. And I felt like I was really at home out here in the middle of the wilderness by this river. The emotional storm within me had calmed, and inside I felt just like it was outside in that moment, just very calm, very serene, and very present. So when I returned to normal life, I really had hope that I could actually experience this peace inside. I didn't really know how, but having this experience really instilled with me a passion to figure out how I could make that shift, because now I knew that it was possible. It would take me several years of searching and learning and trying to figure out where to go in nature, spending a lot of time in nature. But I would end up feeling happiness and fulfillment and peace on a regular basis, like that I experienced in that moment. And I owe so much of this happiness, so much of this peace that I experienced today because of that searching, because of that moment that I experienced with the river that evening. So that's my experience that I'd like to share with you this evening. And yeah, Kenneth, can you share the two videos now? So there will be a sharing from Max Finkelstein. He's a Rideau Roundtable board member. He's called Canada's Canoe Man. He's paddled pretty well every route across Canada. And yeah, and then his son, Isaac Finkelstein. Kenneth, we can't hear the audio.
I'll try it this way.
I can walk down to the Ottawa. Hi, my name's Max Finkelstein, and I like to think I've been raised by a river. Not in a geographical sense, but in a more spiritual way. My home rivers are the Rideau and the Ottawa rivers. And these rivers are central to my world. I can walk down to the Ottawa River from my home with a canoe, and from there, I can go anywhere on the continent. But it's the Phelan River, way up north in the Barren Lands, that has perhaps been the most life-changing river for me. My first trip there was way back in 1988. And 6 of us paddled for 3 or 4 weeks across the Barren Lands. And partway through the trip, we were paddling on a river filled with water and equal amounts caribou. We strained caribou hair from our porridge for days, and we followed the caribou as they wandered away from the river, and we followed the wolves as the wolves hunted the caribou. And learning from the wolves, we infiltrated the herd and pretended we were on our own caribou hunting to stand in the middle of a herd of 20,000 caribou. Walking by you can smell them, you hear them breathing, you hear their hooves clicking. It was an experience that just somehow stayed with me forever, or I felt it was kind of my whole life just led up to that point. And then the Phelan River continued as I went back there many times to influence my life. I met my best friend on the Phelan River. And the Phelan River, which is about as far away as you can get from anywhere in Canada in terms of communities, is not a place you often meet anybody. I did meet my friend paddling alone. He hadn't seen anybody for 40 days. And he went right, I went left. It turned out he lived in Ottawa, and we reconnected that fall and have been best friends ever since. The river also gave its name to our son, Isaac Phelan. It's his namesake river because I could just think of no better name for our son. And with that thought, I'd like to turn this over to our son, Isaac Phelan.
Just a second. The second one's coming up.
Hi, so my name is Isaac Phelan from the previous video. And I've also been on rivers my entire life. According to family lore, I was first in a canoe at 5 days old on the Ottawa River. And since then, I kind of never turned back. As I grew a little older, I found my own path on the river and in canoes. I started to race competitively in a sport called sprint canoeing. And I went I would train 1 to 2, sometimes 3 times a day if there was a training camp in the summer on the Rideau Canal, the Rideau River actually, over by Mooney's Bay at the Rideau Canoe Club. So before and after high school, I would be on the water, and I've spent like the past 10 years paddling. Now I'm a coach there, and I worked my way up from, a little peewee, 12-year-old kid with a life jacket. Then I went to national competitions, finally started competing internationally and made the national team. And so I think that there's like so many ways to spend your life on a river, including the competitive athlete lifestyle, which is what I was doing for a while. And it can bring out your adventurous spirit, your competitive spirit, and it's a great place to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenneth. Dot, would you like to share now?
Okay, after the 2 of them have talked, I was thinking, okay, now what do I say? I have to say, I was thinking about rivers in a lot of ways, how they have been a part of my life, how they are so restorative, and they're just places of sanctuary and beauty, and they run through our topography in quiet pleasure, meandering streams and quiet rivers, to great thundering or great mighty rivers that thunder through your chest. And to have that feeling of being surrounded by that beauty is certainly restorative, but I think it's also humbling. And to start to realize how insignificant we are in our ecosystems, but also how much impact we have, either for the better or for the worse. And so I think of absolutely gorgeous rivers that I've had the most wonderful opportunity to sink my feet into, to sit beside, to travel down. And it's lots of fun to be paddling down the river and get the adrenaline rush. But I love the quiet times when I can sit beside the river's edge and just soak it in, either the quiet mist of the morning or the quietness and the golden sunset, or a storm coming in. And you can see on the Teelon or lots of tundra rivers, you can see river weather coming from far, far, far away. And then it arrives. You can feel it coming, and then there's this deluge. And if you're lucky, you'll see rainbows there. But I'm thinking how much of a blessing they are. And lots of rivers, oh gee, all over this country are exquisite and beautiful, and they flow through our communities. They flow through the tundra, through the mountains, forming our ecosystems that are just absolutely stunning, and as I say, as humbling as well. But I also think of the rivers that I've paddled on that were lost, or were going to be lost, or the ones that have been lost. And I can think of a couple times when that just struck deep into my heart. So I can think of, Max and I organized this one trip from Ottawa to Washington, D.C. It's about 1,800 kilometers and takes about 7 weeks. So part of that is to paddle across the harbor in New York City, and then to go down this other canal river, the Trenton River system, and it's apocalyptic. So you're paddling through the graveyards of battleships, and they're listing to port, or they're just sitting there resting, and it is chilling. It leaves you absolutely cold. And then I can think of another one that really struck me, was with 6 women. We organized a canoe trip down the Churchill River in Labrador. And so when we got there, we went to see where Churchill Falls used to be. And I had seen pictures of it thundering and pouring in just a huge cascade, you know, twice as high as, what's the name? Niagara Falls, yeah, or other places, and roaring, powerful, probably one of the most powerful places on earth. And we got there, and there's this little tiny trickle, just a ghost of what it used to be, not making any sound, just tinkling down this huge rounded cascade of granite. So that sort of struck me with, I've missed it. Nobody is ever going to see that again. We've lost it. And then we paddled down the river from Churchill Falls to Muskrat Falls, that at that time they had just started working on clearing the land and drilling the holes that they have to do to check the land, whatever you do to build a dam. There were helicopters flying overhead. So after we had paddled down this stunning beautiful river that flows between these big, high green, they're forested mountains. And it is serene and gorgeous and historic because of all the people who had lived along there and had paddled there 5,000 years ago or more. So it's historic, plus the people that were helping us from the river keepers there, their fathers, their grandfathers, their great-grandfathers, their great-great-grandfathers, etc. And way back were trappers on that river. And just to imagine we were going downstream. And so just to imagine their capability to go upstream in the autumn, in the full flood in the autumn, it just struck my chord. And then we stopped at some of the trappers' tilts. And just to see, well, the ruggedness of the landscape there was something, and the river travel was something else, but also just to see the vista that they would have seen every single day. Absolutely stunning and soul deep. So, and I get emotional even now, so I gotta breathe, not breathe. So we arrived and approached to Muskrat Falls, and were able to clamber around the rocks and just sit and see this mighty roar of this set of falls that was there, that would be gone. It's gone now. And so all those people in Happy Valley Goose Bay whose forefathers and mothers had traveled up the river, all the Innu people that for whom that was their land, they have lost all those places that brought them memories, all those places where their families had trap lines. And in the first flood of the river, there were people in that area that lost everything. It was flooded. And they hadn't got the language to understand what was happening. They weren't told. And they lost all their equipment, all their boats, all their trap lines, all their, everything. And they were not recompensed for anything. So when Churchill Falls went in, there's a big flooding of the area. And so places that are gone forever, you'll never find those places again. And now with Muskrat Falls, the dam being built, and it is, so all that mighty river that was there before, and the historic lands, that's gone. It's a river, it's a lake now. And it's not just that, but you lose the pristine wilderness that's there, because when you flood land, you flood all the vegetation and it produces methylmercury, which poisons it goes into the food chain. So you're not to eat the fish more than a little bit once a month. And so people who used to live in Happy Valley Goose Bay and along the river can't fish and feed themselves now. But it's not just the fish. Then it's all the birds that would prey upon the fish. It's all the land animals that drink the water, et cetera, et cetera. So that system is poisoned. So it is a huge loss. So I get emotional about that. The places that we lose, when we lose them, they are gone forever. So that impacts me. Oh, there's so many things I've got in my notes here. But to paddle and be by the river, opportunity to be restored, to be humbled, to be healed, I think, and just to have some moments of peace in our days. It's a real blessing and a privilege to travel through those areas. Gatineau River is behind my house, so I love to go down and even just walk along the river, or how fortunate I am, I can go swimming in that river, and the water, it's not pristine, but it is clear and it's swimmable and it's got a great rating. But it's the beauty of the river and all the things that you see and don't see that make up the ecosystem and the forests where we live that make life possible for us. So I think I probably should stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. That was very beautiful. We could really feel the impact of those beautiful spaces and the peace and the love that you felt for the rivers, and yeah, that deep sense of loss. That's very, very sad. Which is, yeah, a cause for deep reflection for sure. Thank you, Dot. Wonderful. Okay, so now we can change directions and shift into our reflection in gratitude. So give me 1 second. Okay. So we'll move into this meditation to help us reflect on how rivers have enriched our lives. And to help us move into this state of gratitude, we'll begin by thinking of somebody who's very important in our lives to help cultivate that state. And then we will shift into reflecting on the gifts, each of the gifts that we receive from rivers, and expressing deep gratitude for these gifts. So yeah, you can gently close your eyes and sit in a position that is comfortable for you. And breathe deep through your nose. Place both your palms over the center of your chest. Breathe deep into your heart space, as if your heart itself were breathing. We'll breathe like this for a minute or so. Now, think of someone who's very special to you in your life. Connect with a beautiful moment you've shared with them of deep connection, of appreciation, or of joy. And reflect on all the beautiful things they add to your life. feel very grateful for the opportunity to have this person in your life. And continue to keep your eyes closed. We'll move into the next part. Dot, would you mind muting yourself? We just have some background noise.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, connect with a river or a stream that is close to you and close to your heart. Connect with some of the wonderful moments you've shared with this river. Memories of great fun, joy, play, calm, peace, or happiness. Choose one of your favorite moments and really reconnect with it. See what you saw then, hear what you heard then, feel what you felt then. Step into that moment like you're there now. Feel grateful for the river, for being with you in this moment and making this moment possible. Now, connect with the gifts or contributions that rivers provide to you in your life. Like the drinking water, given the water which comprises 60% of our body's weight. Like the water which grows our food, the water we cook with. The water which grows the wild animals and aquatic animals, some of which provide our food, some of which provide great friends. The water which cleanses our bodies, our clothes, our house. Which has served as a highway for people for thousands of years and provides us with a wonderful recreational space to paddle and boat and other activities. And supporting us economically through tourism, through fishing, through shipping, and manufacturing our everyday goods that we use. See how inseparable your life is from our rivers. Feel how inseparable your health is from the health of the river. And feel grateful for everything that the rivers provide for you in your life. We can take a minute to just be in gratitude. Whenever you're ready, you can gently relax your hands and slowly open your eyes. Wonderful. Okay. So does anyone have anything they would like to share? A reflection they have had, or a beautiful memory they might have shared with the river? Or the impact that has had on your life?
Well, rivers have saved my bacon. I fly, and IFR means instrument flight rules, but it also means I follow rivers. And one time, in fact, my first flight from Seven Islands, where we were living, along the St. Lawrence, I flew to Montreal, or I tried to fly to Montreal, but at basically Sorel, I ran into a thunderstorm, and I realized I wasn't going to be able to get through to Montreal. But I remembered the Richelieu and followed it down until I hit the parade square at College Militaire Royal de Saint-Jean, turned right, and in the storm, found the airstrip and landed with 20 minutes worth of gas. So the Richelieu saved my life, or saved my bacon. I could have landed on a highway or something, but another time, flying from when Doc was talking about Labrador, I lived in Labrador City, but I was visiting in Shepherdsville, and flew back to Labrador City, not along the railroad, but direct across country. And I was out of sight of the railroad, and all the lakes looked the same, so my maps weren't very good. But I noticed that the one of the rivers, the Ashawanapie, was a different color, and it was. And the further I went towards Labrador City, the more I realized I was on the right track, because the river was getting redder and redder. It was polluted by the mines, and the sadness of this pristine river. Basically, the wildlife was being destroyed, but it was a guide back to where I wanted to go. And had I missed Labrador City, there's a lot of wilderness out there. But many memories of flying. I flew to Churchill when the Falls was operating, and the Nahanni, Mackenzie, right up to the Beaufort Sea. Wonderful memories.
Thank you, Cam. Those are, yeah, very impactful and wonderful memories for sure. Thank you for sharing that.
A different cut on river appreciation.
No, it's yeah, all kinds are wonderful. Thank you. Nice. Cool. Well, I would love to take more shares, but I feel like for the sake of time, we're cutting in on 1 hour. So I'll wrap up and then everyone who needs to go can go, and then anyone else who wants to stay after and share more, any reflections they might have, we can stay and do that. Does that sound good to everybody? Great. Okay.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you very much. Okay. So now we can move into our last part here. So we have this great feeling of appreciation. How do we show it? How do we reciprocate for all of these amazing gifts that we are receiving? So 1 second, I'm just gonna get our slideshow up here. All right. So our waterways are obviously, as we've shared this evening, facing some intense ecological challenges. Their health is seriously in jeopardy, along with all of these benefits that we are receiving. They are all in serious danger. One such danger I want to speak about, I guess it's not the right time for that slide. 1 second. Okay, one such danger I want to speak about is the problem of plastics in our waterways. So last October, I was involved in coordinating the Rideau Environmental Action League and Rideau Roundtable Shoreline Cleanup Project. And during this research I conducted, I discovered for this project to basically talk about the results, I discovered just how much the huge problem of plastics in our waterways was. And this is a problem, of course, for all ecosystems, freshwater and marine, including our rivers. So I can't go into the details of all of this on this presentation, obviously, but there will be a presentation I'm doing on this on September 7th for Watersheds Canada on the impacts of plastics in our waterways. So I can send this information out closer to the date to all the contacts who have received the update for this one as well. But for now, I can conclusively say that it is absolutely imperative that we keep plastics out of our rivers. And here are some ways that we can do this. And a big one is to reduce our plastic consumption in general. Even the plastic that we think is disposed of responsibly is often making its way into our rivers. And here's a couple places we can start, for simple places we can start for reducing our plastic consumption. All right, so for grocery shopping, food and drink packaging, we can cut this out as much as we possibly can. So going shopping at Bulk Barn, using reusable containers, or any bulk food store, including Modern Times if you're in Smiths Falls. That is also a great resource for plastic-free grocery shopping store. So another way is you can place produce directly in your cart or using cloth bags. Another way is to avoid over-packaged foods like soft drink, juice boxes, heavily packaged snack bars, or snacks such as granola bars. Consider making your own and using containers such as like glass containers. An obvious one in the bottom left, which you probably can't see, well, you don't really need to see it, plastic water bottles. Just taking a minute to remind yourself to bring a reusable bottle. It's so very simple, but our rivers will thank us so very much. And it's so easy to forget that, but just making that a habit can be very helpful. Avoiding fast food is also another great way. They're heavily overpackaged. In fact, probably 2/3 of everything we picked up on that shoreline cleanup project was associated with fast food packaging, beer, soft drinks, energy drinks, basically food and drinks that you can pick up on the fly and really easy to throw out your window was what we found a lot of, or by the parks. So that's a little bit about that. Another way that was mentioned to me was online shopping. And this, of course, why is that not switching? There we go. Okay. Online shopping. So this really sunk in about a month ago when I received a package in a box this size. No, I'm going the other way. Okay, there we go. A box this size, and in it came this tiny little box here, and you can see the difference. Oh, not really. One second. You can see the difference back here of these two boxes and all the extra plastic that went into that packaging in order to package that. So a really easy way to reduce our plastic consumption is to shop locally. And that's a very cheap and easy way for companies to protect with styrofoam, which is actually especially bad for our rivers, especially with docks. Docks are a big problem. If you can avoid using styrofoam of any kind on your docks, those disintegrate into microplastics, which are causing, well, I can't get into that. You can come on September 7th and I can get more into microplastics. But yeah, so I didn't want to overwhelm with too much info, but I wanted to stick with what I felt were the two most easy and effective ways to help reduce plastic consumption in our daily lives. And as for preventing them from getting into our waterways, it is very important that we never dispose of garbage on land where it's not meant to go, like in ditches. That might seem like a secure location, but on the next big downpour, when our ditches fill up, lots of water will flow over the land, carry that garbage downhill into the ditches to the streams, to the storm sewers, directly into our rivers. And for this reason, never dispose of garbage where it is not secure, like an overflowing garbage bin. It might seem like a good spot to do it, but on another big downpour, that water can easily pick that garbage up, bring it down into the storm sewers and into the rivers. And then another big way that you can help, probably the biggest way, is to get out there and actually pick up garbage that is along our shoreline. So this is the first project that was done as part of that riparian restoration specialist internship, this cleanup project for 4 days in October of 2020. On the left, you see one of the days where that involved members of the community coming to help with the garbage cleanup in our Voyageur canoe on day 3. And on the right, you see the collection of garbage, which Vanessa Bernicki of the municipality of Smiths Falls graciously weighed for us and gave us the data for the results of the project. So this coming fall in October, there will be another big cleanup project with Rideau Environmental Action League and Rideau Roundtable. And we will announce these dates later in this summer. And that is a wonderful way we can get out there and reciprocate for all these wonderful things that we're receiving from our rivers, and to help reduce the plastic in them and help restore the ecosystems. And a couple other things I will mention. Rideau Roundtable is, that's not, okay. Rideau Roundtable is hosting a River Appreciation Tour Day this coming Saturday, July 31st. It's kind of the next part of this whole river appreciation thing. During this tour, we will do some things, we'll reflect on some things to help cultivate a deeper relationship with the rivers. So we'll have 5 tours running throughout this day with our Rabaska canoe. It can seat up to 7 people from one bubble. And if you come in smaller groups, we might be able to take multiple bubbles, provided that the right amount of people are in them. So for this reason, booking can get complicated. So it's going to have to basically be done through contacting me. So for booking one of these, you can email me at this email in the bottom right, or call me at 613-327-9018 throughout this week if you have yourself or a group who wants to come. And this information will be sent out to everyone who is registered along with the link to the recording, this info to book a tour on Saturday. And then one last thing will mention, after the river appreciation stuff, we will then move into wetland appreciation. So the presentation for this is going to be a little bit different. We'll be focusing more on highlighting the important ecological role that a wetland plays in the bigger picture of things and the benefits that we as a society receive from our wetlands. So that's going to be on August 11th, again at 7 p.m. And it'll be an opportunity to as well appreciate the really rich biodiversity we find in a wetland. We'll have a variety of, some other people will come on who really know their stuff about what's going on in a wetland to help us really understand it too. So we'll send out this information to join the presentation within the coming couple weeks here. And that is everything for this evening. So I want to thank everyone very much for joining. I hope you found it to be helpful in finding a deeper appreciation for our rivers. And if anyone else wants to stick around and share any reflections they have, you can. Otherwise, you can, I can say good night, and you can have, hopefully we'll see you this Saturday and in the wetland appreciation presentation in a few weeks.
Well, thank you very much, Jake. It was excellent. And thank you, Dot, and thank you, Cam, for sharing yours from two different aspects, one from the air, the other one from the middle of it. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. That added a lot. That was very nice to listen to. Thank you. Thank you, John. Wonderful.
Okay, then.
Thanks very much, Jake. I have to go, but I have visions of beavers climbing up on rocks right next to me. And well, actually, can I tell the story?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, there I am meditating on the shore of the river where I was living for 10 years on the river shore in Merrickville. It was just glorious. It was paradise. I'm sitting there seraphically, eyes closed. So hard for me to keep my eyes closed because the river was always so beautiful. I always wanted to be looking at it. But anyway, my eyes were closed. Everything was quiet, sitting on the rock shelf on the shore. And suddenly I hear splish, splash, splish, splash next to me. And I turn to my left, and there's this huge beaver that's climbed up onto the stone next to me, onto the rock next to me. And as I look at him, he looks at me, and it's like a moment out of a cartoon with the dotted line going from his eyes to my eyes and back. And we both kind of go, whoa. And he turns around and grumbles, oh, darn, and slinks back into the river and swims away. I spoiled his perfect spot where he was going to climb out and, I don't know, maybe plan a new den or something. But it was a lovely moment that I'll never forget, of communion with nature on the river.
Well, thanks, Andrea. That's very nice and cute.
Now I'd love to stay for other stories, but I've promised someone I will call, a friend in need. So thank you so much, Jake, and thank you all for coming. That's great.
Thank you, Andrea. Talk to you soon. Good night.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
It's Dot, yeah.
Yeah, so just to say thanks everybody for joining in, and especially to Jake for organizing this, because it made me write out a whole bunch of things about why I love rivers, why they're so important in my life. And I only told a few stories, so you're glad I didn't do all of them. But anyway, it was very fun and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dot, share your thoughts on the Roundtable's Facebook and maybe on Jim Birch website as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. I can do that.
great. That's great. Yeah,
Okay.
because I can remember your C2C expedition.
Oh, yes. They were all good.
Great.